Hey everyone, welcome back to the Movie Fanatics. I'm Brayden. Sorry that it's been a while, but I've been incredibly busy, but I am back, and today we will be continuing the James Bond celebration by looking at the iconic, the classic, and the famous follow-up to Dr. No. Of course, we're talking about 1963's From Russia with Love. Starting with the pros, of course, the first thing is Sir Sean Connery once again as James Bond. His performance levels up in this film. He just is Bond in this film. He matches all the attributes of Bond perfectly. Every single scene he is in, he's on top form and is just great. When you think of famous Bond performances, I certainly think of Roger Moore in For Your Eyes Only, Timothy Dalton in License to Kill, Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye, and Daniel Craig in Casino Royale and Skyfall, and I think of Sean Connery in From Russia with Love. We will get to Goldfinger next time. Everything I said about Sean Connery's performance in Dr. No just improves and doubles in this film. He really is a spy out to do his job and won't take crap and won't take no for an answer. Sir Sean Connery is, again, simply great and once again iconic with a capital I. He just oozes coolness and suaveness and debonair and he just is so great in this movie and one of the main highlights of From Russia with Love. Moving on with the pros, let's talk about Daniela Bianchi as Tatiana Romanova. She is a really good Bond girl, and she has all the attributes of a strong Bond girl. But after she's drugged on the train, she loses all her strength as a character. I feel her character wakes up when she kills Klebb at the very end of the film. It's just disappointing when you have a very strong character that turns into a weak person for the entire climax. It represents, in my opinion, a step down from Honey Rider and Dr. No. I just have massive love of that character, and a love I sadly don't have for Tatiana. In saying this, I do enjoy this character. She's full of charm, wit, humor, and naivety like any good Bond girl has. Daniela Bianchi really shines until she gets drugged, and she's just out of it until she saves Bond from Klebb in the hotel room at the very end of the film. While I don't love this character, she's very good, and I wouldn't want the movie without her, quite frankly. Along with Bond and Tatiana, all the MI6 regulars are still great, but Bernard Lee and Lois Maxwell give great performances as M and Moneypenny, but this is the first film where we see Desmond Llewellyn as Q, and he gives Bond his first proper gadget, the attaché case. It's so great, and he uses everything in it throughout the film. Along with the MI6 crew, we get a great ally in the form of Pedro Armendáriz as Karim Bey. He's definitely one of the best Bond allies and a great secondary character in this franchise. His attitude and debonair match and counter Connery. Karim Bey is a terrific character and a great presence in the film. Along with the great MI6 crew and Karim Bey, we still, of course, have to talk about the villains. There are many villains in this film, but let's talk about the two that do the most. There are many villains in this film, but let's talk about the two that do the most. That is, of course, Rosa Klebb, played by Lotte Lenya, and Red Grant, played by the great Robert Shaw. Rosa Klebb is, of course, the one that is responsible for carrying out Kronstein's plan and recruiting both Tatiana and Red Grant. She is such a menacing and strong character. She is villainous, dirty, and evil right to the end of the film. While not having much to do with the action, she is a great character and a terrific villain and such a great presence in every scene she is in, especially when she first meets Tatiana. That scene is just so creepy and kind of just uncomfortable, and Lotte Lenya's performance in that scene really sets up a fantastic villain in this film. And of course, we also have Robert Shaw as Red Grant, and he's definitely the most iconic villain in this film, and one of the most iconic villains in the series. The pre-title sequence that introduces him is brilliant. I love how there's no information given, but the way he acts is perfect. Robert Shaw, of course, plays Quint in Jaws, and in both films, he is awesome in different ways. The way Red Grant acts and how he goes about doing his job in this film is so menacing and sneaky, and his presence is just big and large, and he really feels like a force to be reckoned with, and in every scene he has, the tension just ramps up more and more. Red Grant is such an effective villain, and another great character in this great movie. Now let's talk about my top 3 favorite scenes. The first one is actually the pre-title sequence. I love how we start with the gun barrel again. And I love how we get a pre-title sequence. And I love how it just throws you into a situation without any information. And the way it plays out is so brilliant. John Barry's score throughout this entire movie is great. I love his title song. A very great, just instrumental song. Awesome. I love his music throughout this entire movie. The reveal at the end is so great. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you know, you know. The scene is great and suspenseful and again, just iconic. Also, I love how it is the first pre-title sequence. Like I said, John Barry's score for this film is way better than Dr. No. I feel like it just improved. He does use the Bond theme a little too much, but it's an amazing piece of music, so I don't mind. All in all, a great start to the film. Now, my second one is the fight at the gypsy camp. The build up to it is great. Why Bond goes there is great. And the action is also great. I love how Red Grant actually saves Bond during it. And it adds another layer of mysticism to his character. A great sequence and flourish of action. Because From Russia with Love is not like... it's not like a License to Kill, where there's just kind of, constant action going on. It's a very low-key spy story. So when there is action, like the pre-titles, the fight at the gypsy camp, the fight on the train, and the rest of the climax, there's a big portion of this movie that's just characters talking. And it's just as entertaining as the action. But when there is action, it just takes the movie to a next level. Now, my third favorite is, of course, the fight on the train between Bond and Red Grant. The dialogue and build-up to it, it's phenomenal, and both actors play off each other so well. It feels like an actual scene between two spy assassins, and is truly a piece of iconic cinema. I love how brutal and real it feels, and it's just so awesome. For what I can see, Bond and Shaw do a lot of their own stunts. Everyone behind that scene makes it a great one. I love it. One of my top 5 favorite fight scenes in the Bond series. It's just so raw and real, and I love the sound design, how the only sounds you hear is the train and just them two fighting and things smashing. And it's just, I love that fight sequence. I love how Bond has multiple fights on trains. He's got the one from Rush with Love. He's got the one Live and Let Die. I love the one in Spectre. But each fight sequence on a train brings something new. And this one, it might be my favorite. It's definitely up there with the one in Spectre. I love Bond train fight sequences. Now, moving on to the cons, I really don't have much. The only thing I can think of is the pacing. In some areas, it could be tightened. I think it's like 20-ish minutes before we see Bond, which is way too long. And then it's another 10 minutes before we actually get Bond getting called in for the mission, like sitting in M's office for his briefing. I feel like there are many chunks, just little sections of this movie that could be shortened for pacing, because it does feel like it drags in a couple areas. The ending goes on for a bit too long. I feel like it could have just went from the train sequence, escaping on that truck, and then going to the hotel in Venice and the movie wrapping up. We did not need the helicopter stuff. We did not need the boat scene. I know it's trying for that big ending that Dr. No had, but Dr. No's ending fit the movie because his base explodes. There's no base in this movie. It goes on for way too long. But all that being said, other than the pacing issues I have with this movie, that's the only problems I have. I love this movie, but the pacing is my only con of this movie. There's some areas that just go on for a bit too long, or a bit too slow. They could have tightened it up in some areas, but overall, the movie is really, really awesome. All in all, From Russia with Love is a great spy story and required viewing for all Bond fans. Connery delivers one of the best performances as Bond ever. I love this film. I always will. It is a true spy movie that is thrilling, suspenseful, and exciting from beginning to end, and it gets an A-. Thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and write comments below about your thoughts on From Russia with Love. And I will see you next time when we take a look at Goldfinger. This has been Brayden from the Movie Fanatics, signing off.